Hello, welcome to Evangelistic Apologetics. This is an introduction to systematic Christian worldview. We're doing part 1, the truth of truth and the theory of creation. Our idea is to investigate what's the truth behind the concept of truth. Aren't we here searching for truth? But what is the truth about truth? So we found a satisfying solution, a definition of truth. That truth is the accurate reflection of the objective world in the subjective world. Truth is a reflection from one world into another. Truth must be defined by existence. Something exists with or without our thought. That's what we call the objective world. And it may be divided into 3 layers: natural world, human world, and supernatural world. The natural world is governed by natural laws. The human world has something beyond it, such as our mind, and the supernatural world is even higher. Knowing or not its confirmed existence, let's put it there as a possibility, as a category for investigation. And you should not negate the existence of something before you have done investigation. Okay? Therefore, the objective world is existing, and the subjective world is the mind that tries to reflect it. Okay? And when we try to know the natural world, our major means is through experience, like touching, feeling, okay, sensing, 5 senses. And we involve reason, but in less sense, faith, but mostly through experience. Then what we get is science. If you want to know the human world, especially our mind, we use reason, and we get philosophy. And when we use try to know the supernatural world, we mainly should use faith. And we should use reason and experience, but in the order of faith first. Reason second, experience third. And with that, we get theology. Okay? And theology, philosophy, science are all related. Science used to be called the natural theology, and then natural philosophy. And right now, it's independent by itself. So it used to be that theology influences your philosophy and your science. Actually, without the Christian worldview, there could never be modern science. You see, there is one of those mysteries that exists, and there has not been a satisfactory answer. When I was in China, I always wondered why the Chinese culture, which had pretty advanced science and technology in the ancient times, why did it fall behind the West? Well, is it because that we are dumb people? Doesn't seem like it. Today in America, of course, you only see the smart ones immigrate here. So you have a stereotype that all Asians are smart, which is not true. You just only have seen the smart ones because they come here. But generally speaking, we're not lesser in terms of intellect. But what is wrong? Why did the West actually kept dormant for the many years until after the Reformation? And what made the difference? Okay, the modern time. Well, it seems to me that there is an answer. That science, to have modern science, you need to have a belief in the existence of truth. You must believe there is a truth, and it's worth pursuing. And you must believe truth is unique. There's only one truth, and then you must believe truth is good. So it's good to pursue it. And this faith actually comes from the Christian worldview, because Jesus says, I am the truth. There is a truth. And truth is good, for truth makes you free. And the truth is unique, is one. There's only one God and one truth. So Christian worldview does provide the background of faith. And from there, you can use your reason, which was provided by the Greeks. and then you use experience or modern science as experiments. Then you put them together, you have modern science and technology. So that's my answer for that question. So the direction I want to go is that the three branches of knowledge, they all exist in our subjective world, in human mind, and they reach there by a reflection of the objective world, something that's external to that. And things in the subjective world are not all truth. Something in our mind do not have correspondences in the real world, such as when we have the idea of, let's say, unicorn. Okay? We have that concept in our mind. We can even paint a picture of it. But is there a real unicorn in the real universe? No, I don't think so. So where does that idea come from? Well, it comes from imagination. Okay? Imagination can generate something that may seem good, but it actually doesn't correspond with reality. And so that's false. And when the falsehood is harmful, then it become errors and untruths and lies. Okay? But it could be just imagination. But not everything in the subjective world are truth, but those parts that correspond with reality, with the objective world. Okay? So what is true corresponds with what is real. Okay? When you have that correspondence, then you can call whatever exists in your mind as a thought or language as the truth. So what is truth? Truth is the reflection of the objective world in the subjective world, but it's an accurate reflection. Okay. So with that in mind, we find out that you can guide your theology, since theology, philosophy, and science are related. The top influences the bottom, and the bottom also could influence the top. If you want to know about the supernatural world, you can use science and philosophy. You can use your experience and reason. They're not excluded. They're just not the foundational. Okay? Ultimately, you have to involve faith when you want to know the supernatural world. But you can get into science and philosophy. So here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to present the arguments from creation, or the cosmological argument. That's the first of the arguments for the existence of God. All of these arguments are using science and philosophy and using experience and reason to lead to conclusions or that related with the knowledge of the supernatural world. In other words, to guide the formation of your theology. Okay? So we want you to have a scientific and rational theology. Isn't that a reasonable goal? All right. So the first argument for the existence of God is called the argument from creation, or cosmological argument. It goes like this. The first premise is everything with a beginning seems to have a creator. Everything with a beginning seems to have a creator. How do we get this? Well, we get this from induction. Okay, induction is to go from specifics by observing specific things. And then you generalize and you get a general statement. Okay? Like, I observe that you have a beginning, I have a beginning. You have a birthday, I have a birthday. We all have beginnings, and we all have a creator or creators, which is our parents, plus God, if you believe that God has provided the soul. So everything that has a beginning seems to have a creator or creators, okay? And you get that from induction. Is induction ever exhaustive? No. But can you use induction, incomplete induction, to lead to statements that seems to be reasonable? Yes, that's what we have done. That's why we say everything with a beginning seems to have a creator. Okay? Seems means I admit that our induction is incomplete. However, before you find a counterexample, you have full reason, right to believe in or hold on your general statement obtained from induction, from observation of specific things. Okay? So, have you found anything that you know that has a beginning, but it definitely has no creator? Have you found anyone? Well, somebody say, well, maybe the universe is one. What? How do you know? It's maybe. You don't know, right? So if you don't know, you put in the place where you can't make a judgment. But from the things that you can make a judgment, that you can observe, you raise up, you make induction, you find a general statement. And by that, before you find a counterexample, you should believe it and make a deduction from it that's applying to another specific situation and see if it fits. If it does not fit, then you modify your statement and do another deduction and find if it fits, then you find out the limit of your general statement, right? That's how people learn. That's how knowledge comes. Okay? So, since by induction we know that everything with a beginning seems to have a creator and there has never been a counterexample confirmed. So, now we could look at a second premise. The universe seems to have a beginning. Now, on that, we may have some complications, because in the beginning of the mankind, we have always believed that universe has a beginning, until the time of Isaac Newton. And Isaac Newton was a Christian himself, but he founded the Newtonian physics. And the most famous ones were the three Newtonian laws of mechanics and the gravitational laws of the universe. And by the Newtonian worldview, which is based on a concept of what do you call them? A uniform space-time. Okay, it believes that space is a three-dimensional framework, like in Euclidean geometry. You know, Euclid is the one who founded Greek geometry. Okay, he had plane geometry. He also have the 3D geometry, and in the Euclidean geometry, the space is a three-dimensional, front and back, left and right, up and down, three-dimensional. You can make a framework of that, make a coordinate system. And it's uniform, it's infinite, expand to infinite direction. Okay? And time is a flow. Time has no beginning and no end, and it's just a flow uniformly. So space and time, they are independent. Each of them is uniform, okay? And they are independent, and they are infinite. So three things that is the foundation of Newtonian physics. That space and time are independent, uniform, and unchangeable, and infinite. You see? However, this concept did not push Newton himself to atheism. He believes that God has to make the first push. He has to put the planets around the sun and give the first push, and then they start to rotate, and then everything goes on forever according to the natural law, gravitational law. However, somebody has to put it there first. Okay? So he believes that God exists and God created the universe, then he left the universe alone. Well, maybe he did not go that far. He's a Christian. He still believes in Jesus Christ and so on. But the other people that believed in Newton, and they start to believe, oh, maybe time could be infinite. There is no beginning of the universe. You can lengthen the time to infinitely long, and there's no beginning. There's no first push because there's no beginning. Okay, so that is the worldview or theology of deism. Okay, Deus is God in Latin, so deism is the belief that there is a God, but God created the heaven and earth and may have given the first push, but after that, he left the universe alone. He is a clockmaker. After he made the watch, he never watches it. How rational is that kind of watchmaker? Okay. So deism believed in a rational God. They believed themselves as rational people, but actually believed a irrational God, irrational watchmaker, who made a watch, but never watches it. You see, and that's just odd, isn't it? But that is a theology for some smart people of that time in the 17th century, and they included some founding fathers who were influenced by it. These founding fathers from America, like Jefferson, Adams, and Franklin, they were influenced by this. Are they fully a deist, therefore non-Christian? I doubt it, because I know Franklin, when the Constitutional Conference was in limbo, he was the one who said, "Let us pray." Okay, when he prays, he believes that God intervenes, right? Otherwise, why pray? Okay, if God intervenes, then God is not the deist God. God is the Christian God, the biblical God. All right, and Jefferson, he said something that may link with deism, but on the other hand, he is the one who conducted Christian service in the Capitol building. Okay, and today people would have impeached him, but at that time it was totally legal. Even today it's still totally legal. People just don't realize that. And so anyway, deism came from Newtonian physics, which is founded by the idea of a uniform space and time. Okay. However, that concept has been scientifically debunked. Okay. Today, Newtonian physics has been found wanting in the cases of small scale and high speed. Okay. When it's small scale, Newtonian physics has to be replaced by quantum mechanics. Okay. And that's another topic for another day. But when it's high speed, when everything is getting close to the speed of light, then we found that Newtonian physics has to be replaced by the theory of relativity, which was discovered by Albert Einstein, okay, in the beginning of the 20th century. And Einstein, somebody believed that Einstein believed in God. Well, be careful. Einstein is a Jew, but is not a practicing Jew. He believed in a God of Spinoza, which really is Western pantheism. It's called monism. Monism is monos, everything is one. So Spinoza believed the universe is one being, a whole thing. And the laws within physics are so intricate and high up and intelligent that the laws of nature themselves is God. Okay, so Einstein actually believed this God, a pantheistic monist God. He did not believe in the biblical God, the creator of the universe. Okay, he believed the universe itself. In other words, he lowered himself. Rather believing in the creator, he believed in the creation as a whole. But on the other hand, Einstein did believe that the universe is a whole. Okay, so according to him, he found out that space and time, they are not uniform. And they may be bent, they may be twisted, they may be stretched. Okay? When an object moves close to the speed of light, which was found to be the highest speed anything can do in this universe, and when anything moves as fast as the speed of light, then there is an effect called the slowing down of the clock. Okay? It's called time dilation. Time is stretched. Okay? And there is also another effect is called the mass is getting heavier. You're getting heavier and heavier close to the to infinity. So you cannot be sped up anymore, okay? Because your mass is so big, nothing acts on you will have an effect, okay? So time will be stretched, and there is a shrinking of distance, okay? The ruler will be shrunk. The time will be stretched. It will be dilated. So because of this, we know this is called the special theory of relativity. Okay? Because of this, we know that space and time are not anymore uniform, and they are also not anymore independent. Okay? Because when we have the big mass, like a star, when the light goes around the big mass, the light's path actually bends. Light is defined to go in straight path. Okay? But when light goes around the sun, we actually had an experiment when we observe a twin star when there was a solar eclipse, and we found out we should stop seeing it because the stars will be behind the sun. But we saw it a little longer because the light bent around the sun. And this is called the bending of the space. So in other words, space and the mass are interactive. Okay? So what we have space and time are related. When things getting close to the speed of light, they're not anymore independent, and they can be stretched or shrunk or bent. They're not anymore uniform. And also, and the last is because what we call the general theory of relativity. Okay? And finally, we have an idea that space and time are finite. Okay? They are not infinite. Finite means that the universe is cannot anymore being seen as straight lines, because Newtonian physics saw this universe as straight lines. They never meet in the Euclidean space. However, in the theory of relativity, the space and time that we observe today seems to be inclined lines, and they seem to come back to a common beginning. And our observation is limited to a limited time. That's our observation. But reason, see, this is experience, right? Observation is experience. Okay? When you do science, you have to base it on experience. Okay? So when your experience is limited, but when you do induction, you observe specifics, you generalize to general things, and you can generalize as big as possible until you meet your boundary. Find your counterexample. So we can generalize. According to general theory of relativity, the universe seems to have a beginning. Well, of course, Einstein himself, he rather prefer a steady state universe. He wants it to be constant, the same. There's no beginning, so he doesn't have to face issue of God. And so he added something called cosmological constant to change his equation, and in order to create a steady state. However, later observation of cosmology found out that the evidence fits better with an expanding universe. Now we call it the Hubble's law. Okay, Edwin Hubble was one that found out that stars, when they are all leaving us, and the further they are from us, the faster they go. Okay, so the Hubble's law is that the distance from us, it seems to be proportional to the speed of departure from us. That's called Hubble's law. Okay, and of course there's a problem as to how fast can they go. It cannot be faster than the speed of light, right? Then what do you have? You have a boundary of the universe. Okay, and the finiteness will come in, right? See, if you have a outside boundary, you should have a beginning also. So if you have a beginning and everything was together, if it should be a big ball of high temperature, and then it exploded up. What's that called? It's called the Big Bang theory. Okay. Remember, Big Bang theory could never be experimentally verified. Okay. Any theory about the beginning are beyond experiments, beyond our experiential verification. What we can have is we propose theories, and theories when we propose theories have deductions. Okay, we can deduct to specific predictions. Then we observe these things, see if they verify. And one of the predictions of general relativity is that the universe will have a beginning, and then that will generate a background temperature. Everywhere around the universe should have a background temperature, and that was 3K. It was predicted higher than that, but it observed to be around 3K Kelvin, 273 degrees below Celsius, 0. Anyway, 3K Kelvin. That was observed, and that seems to have confirmed the new Einsteinian relativity, that the universe should have a beginning. This does not mean that we have to believe in everything that but the Big Bang theory says. Okay, you don't have to believe in everything. It's like the universe will have about 15 billion years of history. That's a deduction based on, again, uniformitarianism, assuming the expansion is uniform. Well, but even in Big Bang theory is assuming in the beginning it was not uniform. There's a fast expansion. Then there's a uniform expansion. Well, the question is, if it could be fast then, why not fast for a long time and then just very short time then? So the biblical picture is that the universe is a very short, it's what we call the young earth. Just about 6,000 years if you go from the Bible. And could that agree with science? Well, yes, it could, because you don't know anything before. You're just deducing. And all deductions are based on assumptions. If you assume uniformitarianism for a long time, you get Big Bang theory. If you assume that uniformitarianism for a short time, then you get the biblical creationism. And that actually has some scientific verifications in the recent progress of cosmological physics. And I run out of time. I have to add that evidence in next time we meet. But what we conclude is that based on simple logic, okay, everything with a beginning seems to have a creator. The universe seems to have a beginning by the best of modern science. Therefore, the universe should have a creator, which is, by definition, God. And may God's grace be upon us. Amen.